Okay, so I've not actually had the chance to take a look at this myself, but Capcom came out with a new trailer for Dragon's Dogma 2 indeed this week. It's on the RE engine. It's also going to be seemingly the first Capcom game to ship at $70. I'm going into this one with no knowledge whatsoever. So, John, why don't you clue us in?
Yeah, so they did just reveal a release date trailer actually, and which it's coming out in March 22nd next year. The trailer itself looks beautiful, like as usual. The Reach for the Moon engine is produces stunning visuals, I would say. You saw this as well, Alex, right? Like the character models and like just the animation work, it's all really top tier. And of course, I love some of the large creatures that the series is kind of known for, but gives you that Shadow of the Colossus vibe. But I actually have played this back at the Tokyo Game Show, and I don't know if I talked about it on here so much, but I played an in development build of it, and it was still early. It was actually like quite early, and they noted that certain things like being able to lock onto enemies, for instance, was not in that build, but it is
wow, that's early.
Being worked on. So there was a bunch of things that it's like, oh yeah, that is being implemented, but this is early enough where it's like we don't actually have this stuff in the build, so keep that in mind. So it was that kind of condition. But what I really liked about it was okay. Actually, it's the night stuff, and this is something that Dragon's Dogma always did, but this is something you don't see in games very often, and they definitely did it here. And with like HDR and everything, it's stunning. But in Dragon's Dogma, when nightfall occurs, they actually make the world really dark, like pitch black. It's like if you're in the forest in the dark at night, like you see nothing, just silhouettes against the sky, and you have to rely on your own personal lighting, like torches and such, or lanterns or whatever. I forget what it is, but you need to light the way. And that actually makes this like experience of when you venture out into the world like that and the sun starts to set, you can be in real trouble out there. And it adds this tension to it. It kind of reminds me of Dying Light, actually,
Right.
in that regard. But I think that right there is cool, and it kind of speaks to me as like, oh yeah, they're staying true to the Dragon's Dogma formula. But the combat so far feels more refined, I would say. The world looks really interesting, and this trailer, of course, shows a lot more stuff than I saw in that demo, which the demo was mostly in like one area of the world, from what I recall.
Right.
Which is sort of the grassy plains area, running around with your party. But I think based on early performance plus the PC requirements that were released, I actually think this is going to be the heaviest RE engine game to date.
Wow.
It certainly seems to be the largest scale one. I
Yeah,
can't
by
think of
far.
anything
It seems
like this is big. This is a big looking game. But the TGS in development build was pretty unstable at its current state. It was just running with an uncapped frame rate though, and on a TV without VRR, so it was kind of like a lot between 30 and 60, right? In that range. So, but of course, can't judge performance based on that, obviously. And they did say, yeah, that performance is not what they're targeting. So we'll see how it runs in the end. But then we saw those PC requirements. They seem pretty darn steep, I would say.
Yeah, and they delineated.
You saw them, right,
things.
Alex?
I did see them too. Put like recommended. They were showing like recommended 30 FPS. Were they not? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right. They recommended 4K I30.
Yeah, but
or 4K 30i, that's their interlaced rendering, by the way.
Yeah.
And
there's a couple things I got to say about that. I'm really worried that once again we're going to see another Capcom PC port with broken TAA and no DLSS or no XESS, and the community's going to have to swoop in. Please, Capcom,
right,
don't do this again.
That's right. The PC was it Village for sure that had like poor AA compared to the console versions. The TAA didn't work well.
Yeah, I mean, I also kind of want to say that the TAA and the console versions of Village are also like not Village. Sorry, Village. Yeah, I'm thinking about Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 has some interesting image quality things going on. No, sorry. I keep saying Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 4 remake is what I'm thinking of.
Oh, the remake was a little different because that also had image quality issues on consoles. I think Village was the one where
It looked fine.
The consoles had superior AA versus the PC version.
Yeah,
that is correct.
Which was weird. And then RE4 comes along. I think RE4 was better on PC image quality wise than the console versions.
Yeah, I mean that's
as good as it could be.
That was more about like raw image quality and a couple other things. Like there was the weird thing going on PS5 with like the post processing, whatever.
Oh yeah.
But I hope that is in there. One thing that I hope that they also do, and there's a good chance that they will do it this time, is like around like Resident Evil 4 Remake and a couple titles before then, they kind of like stopped shipping their ray tracing with games. Like, and we always had kind of like, I was really grateful that they had ray tracing in the games, but the quality was really, really low for reasons. And then they had these presentations about the RE Next engine, I think they call it. It's like Reach for the Moon Next or something like that. It's their internal naming, I guess, or maybe external naming as well, too, for the upgrades done to the RE engine for every title past Resident Evil 4 Remake. And that's really cool because they showed off changes to their RTGI. And this game, and it's going to make it actually much more like, it'll be like similar performance level, I think, but it'll be like much better coverage and much more reliable to be used as like the full lighting solution for a game.
That's awesome.
Which is great. And they even showed off things like internal resolution numbers for consoles and PC, like they really in-depth presentation. Really cool. Check it out. I think there's English subtitles for it if you look out there. And really great. And I'm hoping this game ships with that along with ray traced reflections because it's going to be open world, which is hard to do any sort of baked lighting for. That looks good. And then it's also a day-night cycle, which is the perfect time to utilize ray tracing. So we'll see here, but I would not be surprised if there's a 30 FPS. Please don't do an unlocked frame rate mode there, Capcom, please give us a 30 FPS ability to lock it. That's something that they also don't tend to do in their games. They tend to just only have unlocked frame rates. That's fine if you're on like PS6, however many years from now. But like right now, please give people the ability to lock down frame rates. So Capcom, there's a lot of stuff please make it good. Please make it good.
I love at the end of their trailer though, they show like a brief moment of a dragon spewing fire and has shades of Deep Down in it.
Right.
Like it's probably still not quite the Deep Down of fire simulation thing that they showed, which, whatever. But it makes me think that they're like kind of trying to work their way back to that target someday at least.
Man, there's a lot to be said about that. Like if you think about it, like Deep Down is like technically it was like doing things that only this next engine is starting to do. And even not, it's nuts.
First $70 game. What do you reckon, John? It's not great, but
I mean,
it's the direction of travel in the industry, isn't it?
That's the way things are going, right? Like, I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah,
games are getting more expensive to make, and I mean, nobody wants to pay more, but I don't know. I mean, these publishers got to make the call on this stuff, right. Yeah. I'm always afraid to weigh in on this topic because different people get upset to different degrees depending on what you say.
There's still this bizarre attachment between time spent in a game and the amount being charged for it, which doesn't really make sense.
That's a pet peeve of mine for sure. And I mean, I can understand why. Somebody that's constrained in terms of what they can spend on a game, and also has a lot of time. What I'm saying is kids or teenagers, where they can spend hours and hours playing whatever they want, but they actually don't have a lot of disposable income. Sure, I can absolutely understand wanting that. But I guess I would also suggest trying to give smaller games a shot that actually rewards skill, I guess. Like you can get a lot out of a small game once you really get into it. Like obviously learning a fighting game, a shooter, or something like that, versus like an open world game where it's like it's just you just need this checklist of constant things to do, but each thing you're doing is usually not that interesting. But that's a whole different topic. But
Yeah.
I mean, at least in terms of Dragon's Dogma 2, since that's the topic here, I suspect that you'll get value for the money in terms of time investment, because it's very likely to be a long game.
Okay, good stuff. Anything further to add, Alex, or are you spent?
I'm spent. I mean, one last thing is they did mention in their presentation that they're doing like even more forward-looking research in the future for things like ray tracing, for hair rendering, and also mesh shaders. So
Nice.
we'll see about that soon enough. It would be nice to see another game that requires mesh shaders to have good performance eventually.
Did you see, by the way, I forget, it was a TGS 2014, they actually showed Deep Down running on PS4.
Yeah.
And it was playable on the show floor. It, of course, did not look like that original demo.
No. Wasn't it also
but
720p?
I think it was 720p, but 60 frames per second.
Right. Yeah.
From what I understand, and looking at the footage here that's online, it actually looks good. It probably would have been a nice looking game, but clearly they never figured out what they wanted that game to be, and it just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, that initial trailer, man. Jeez. That was like
Stuff like
next
that.
gen. That was
I
like,
know.
oh my God, that looks so next gen. That was incredible.
It's become a legend along with games like Frame City Killer.
Yeah, it is, right?
Which unfortunately would have had an unfortunate acronym had it been released, so probably better for them that they didn't.